Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for everything cryptocurrency analysis. Now what we're taking a look at is essentially VeChain, which is VET, right? We're going to take a closer look at that. This is my all-time favorite, my largest holding by far, and I can tell you that this is likely a good investment, but that's not why we're here, right? We're here to see if we can find a good entry point for you, help you make an informed decision on just using the technical analysis only. We're not looking at any fundamentals here. Always do your own research. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. And if you go ahead and join our Telegram community. There's a link in the description below so you can help learn and grow together with the rest of us and likes like me, right? We're all in there engaging in open dialogue, learning as much as we possibly can. There's also $25 in unclaimed Bitcoin from Voyager if you'd like to reference that as well. That's in the description. But without further ado, let's go ahead and check it out. Let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at VeChain. And just before we do, I like to preface in the fact that I always reference Bitcoin and Ethereum first, just to get a baseline on how those are doing. So leading into, referencing this coin here, we can understand overall, the general market sentiment and how they correlate together as well, because it's really important to understand the difference, but also the connection. We'll look at that here. So taking a look at Bitcoin. First of all, this is kind of what we're looking at, and today was a unique day. We rose up to upwards about 58,000, sold all the way down to about 55,000. Now we're hovering right around 56, just barely over the 50-day moving average. Furthermore, we have a 200-day moving average here at about 57,000 approximately. That has been essentially just a very, very difficult number to stay above. So hopefully the price can raise above that, stay above it, and just continue upwards so we can all reap the benefits, of course. That's kind of what we're looking at there. Other than that, not much else to note, minus the fact that we do still have a support level here at about 53,300. Price comes back down, it will likely test that, but it will probably test the 100-day moving average first, based on the fact that it has a large variance that has kind of already been tested recently. Moving on to Ethereum. Now Ethereum is interesting as well because, as you can see back here on the 17th is when, of course, the first major sell-off for Bitcoin occurred. And we saw some consolidation, price increase, and then the second downward spiral for Bitcoin. And on the 25th, just shot right back up and hasn't slowed down since. The only thing that caused it to slow down, likely, was all the indecision in the market right now with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin sold off right here, and then decided to want to come back. Bitcoin sold off, come back. So it's kind of done a back and forth Christmas pattern, Christmas colors, if you will, just right there. So at this point today, we did recently hit the all-time high of 3,500, correction, 3,600, 3,602, somewhere in that range. And essentially it's kind of hovering right in the 3,450 range. So we'll see what happens with Bitcoin and Ethereum, but generally speaking, these two are, that's kind of how they're working. And these are the 4-hour charts, by the way, I forgot to preface that. These are the 4-hour charts for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right, so let's take a look at VET next, okay? Now VET is an interesting one because it's been my favorite for some time. Thankfully, I've been able to, one of the few currencies I've been able to hold on for a lot longer than most of them after sometimes you catch that first wave and it doesn't go up much further. But VET has been pretty awesome. So this is the 1-day chart. First of all, we start with the 1-day chart and work our way down. We go from 1 day, 4-hour, 15-minute, and then 1 minute if necessary. So looking at the 1-day chart, what do I see here that seems to kind of stick out to me at all? Well, the MACD is nice. Okay, so typically when the price, this green line here, swings upwards in an upward fashion, intersects, that essentially just means that there's a moving average difference. In other words, the moving average is essentially at that point swinging upwards and it's creating a bullish momentum. In other words, when the momentum shifts, you'll see that kind of pattern. That's usually a very good sign. Now I don't put a lot of weight into it. I prefer the RSI overall for taking entry, but looking at that there, that's essentially what we're looking at for kind of a good consideration for understanding the momentum shifting. When it comes to the RSI is about 65. It is trending upwards towards 70, so just be on the lookout when the price goes over 70. There's typically a sell-off and a retracement that occurs afterwards. So if we see up here, now bear in mind the 17th, which is this guy right here, that slowed the momentum significantly. When VeChain was really hitting its peak, it slowed down way off because of the fact of that happening. But leading into it, you could see it was making higher highs and consistently over 70 on RSI. So just be cautious when you see an RSI over 70. It basically just means that the price could eventually retrace itself. Now, I prefer to use a 15-minute chart to see about a good entry point, and that's how it's a little more relevant for me. But on the 4-hour chart, RSI being over 70, there's always a chance for the price to come back down, depending on the overall movement and the sentiment of the market itself. Which is why we looked at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to kind of see, because right now Bitcoin's trying to figure it out. And what's nice is VeChain is just going up on its own in this sense, right? It's tired of the indecision, it's actually ramping up, which is nice. So it's a really positive sign. So I like the numbers here so far. That's the 1-day chart. Let's look at the 4-hour chart next. And this is what's cool. This is what's contradictory to Bitcoin, right? So if you look at Bitcoin, you see this guy right here, this 4-hour bar. It's basically a consolidation 4-hour bar that is opened higher and is closing lower. So not the best. However, you look at VeChain, same time frame, and we have this major ramp up. So it finally broke out, which is awesome. Significant amount of volume. RSI is a little high. What's great about this is it didn't keep going, which I feel to be a good thing, because on the 4-hour chart, the RSI is still under 70, which means there's more room for growth. It's not considered completely overbought, so there's still a lot of bullish momentum that's causing it to increase and continue upwards. So that's a very, very good sign. We like to see that. Other than that too, there's also 3 other good signs. All moving averages in the 4-hour chart, the 100, the 50, and the 200-day moving averages are all acting as support levels right now. So the price does come down. Pay attention to how the 50 and the 100-day moving average react to the price, and just make sure you pay attention to that. Again, not super important right now. It'll probably take a little while for the price to come back down if it does, and obviously for a while for those to come up as well. Just be aware of that. Moving on to the 15-minute chart, I like to look at this. This is kind of my favorite time frame, if you will, to help understand a good entry point. Perhaps if you should consider trimming some off the top. And in situations like this, I oftentimes try to get a little bit off the top, because if you see the RSI being over 70, again, 4-hour and 1-day chart, not a huge deal, right? Kind of gives you an overall big picture of what's going on. However, when you look at the 15-minute chart and you see the RSI over 70, it's a pretty firm indication that it's considered to be overbought, and there might be a retracement occurring soon. Now, this is contradictory to everything I'm saying right now, so keep that in mind. In most cases this happens. It doesn't always have to, all right? This could have enough bullish momentum to just continue to go up, but what I like to see here and what I'm happy about is the fact that it's consolidating still in an upward fashion. So when you see a pattern like this, for example, we've got, it's tested the resistance level 4 times in the last 2 hours. We also see this wedge pattern forming. Commonly when you have an upward progression like that, working itself into a small, more narrower channel, it's more likely to break out in an upward fashion. There's no guarantees of that, but again, charts like this, when they start kind of organizing themselves like this, there is a possibility it's going to go up and continue to go up after that. RSI is calming down a little, which is good, of course, makes sense based on this large red bar, but we'll see what happens soon, and if that ends up deciding to break out. Because if you don't already know this and you're new to this channel, I try to reiterate this every time I have the opportunity. When a support level or resistance level is tested multiple times and it's broken, it becomes an even stronger support or resistance level. So in this example here, let's just say hypothetically this resistance level of 0.246 is broken. It'll work as a much stronger support level because it's been tested at least 4 times already. So if it's tested and rejected that many times and breaks above, it'll work as a stronger support. So again, that's why channels like this occur and you see a wedge pattern forming an upward fashion like this. That's why they break out in upwards, because of the fact that it's testing that resistance line multiple times. Okay, so just something to be aware of, kind of just pay attention to that. It's not for sure, of course, because it could very well just go down and recover. It really depends on, again, how Bitcoin continues. If Bitcoin stays consistent and just kind of keeps working itself into a channel and even just say increases a little bit, then I think VeChain will have enough momentum to push up and continue up, because even though it's not 100% reliant on Bitcoin, it does follow it fairly close in a lot of ways, and it kind of acts similarly. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts there so far. So if I were to consider taking entry right now, I would first of all wait for confirmation. And if you're new to the channel, again, confirmation for me is 30 minutes. So on the 15-minute chart, I expect to see 2 green bars close above or below the support or resistance level before I take entry. So in this example, I would wait for the price to come up and test this line, stay above for 30 minutes at 0.246. Now, it seems crazy to a lot of people in crypto because of the fact that it's extremely conservative, and I agree with that. I understand. So you can maybe wait for 15 minutes and feel like that's good enough confirmation for you. I personally don't ever feel like that's enough confirmation. I need to have 2 solid green bars, two candlesticks that close green in order. In other words, 30 minutes or more to feel comfortable and confident with it. Okay, so that's just me personally. So if you see, for example, down here, let's just take this as an example. If you see the volume weighted average price, this blue line here, when you see the green bar come up and over, like this one, for example, comes up and over, okay? A lot of people would take entry right there, and that's okay, maybe. But if you consider and you wait, just say 30 minutes, you see this bar close and that bar close. So you got these 2 guys right there. That's confirmation for me. So what I do is I'd probably take entry right here, and then I would see what happens. Price inevitably increases. Now, it doesn't always work that way. Don't get me wrong. There's a few instances where you can look at, like here, for example, it came up and didn't do much after that. But that's still good confirmation, right? That still helps. So once it tests a support line and it stays above for 2 solid green bars on a 15-minute chart, in other words, 30 minutes, then I think it's a good point to take entry. And again, it's just taken me years to kind of figure this out, to be more of a conservative trader, because I used to be very callous and very careless, and I've lost plenty of money in my day. I rarely have red days now. Most of my days are green, and they may not be super big green days, because here's the thing too, I forgot to mention. You're going to take entry after confirmation, take a small entry, 20-30% tops, right? So I use the example of if you had $1,000 that you're investing in and kind of buying and selling and trading here now. If you have $1,000 and you're going to take entry above the support level after 30 minutes, you get your confirmation, I would only recommend adding 20-30% to your position, so maybe doing a $200 to $300 position, and then see where that goes. If it continues upwards and you come closer to your goal, then sell and take your profits. Okay. So again, just a consideration there, of course, but it's not a foolproof. It just works really well for me. I want you to use your own trading style and make sure that you maybe take away some of the things I've mentioned here today. Don't do everything I say specifically to a T, but I can tell you if you're more cautious and more careful as a trader, you're going to be more successful. You're going to have a lot less red days and those difficult days that you lose sleep over, and you're just going to be generally a happier person. I prefer to be happy trading, right? There's no other way to describe it, and it just makes sense for me. Okay, so again, figure it out, but I can tell you from years of experience, there's nothing worse than losing all of your gains and essentially just leaving money on the table. I take profit when I can, and I get out probably too early in most cases. There's no doubt I've left plenty of meat on the bone, but I'm still profitable at the end of the day, and that's okay for me. All right, so enough about that. Let's see if we can just summarize here. Let's take a quick look at the 1-minute chart, get perspective on what the price action is doing right now. Oops, turn negative. And what we want to look at is maybe just use the retracement tool really quick and kind of see what the support and resistance lines are. And again, for Fibonacci retracement, you always put at the lowest possible point after retracement. So that was the most recent retracement, because the price has been hitting higher highs, and we go up to the highest point. Okay. So this is basically what the industry standards are using. The industry leaders, they'll use something like this to kind of establish support and resistance levels, which is why you can see this here as a major resistance, major support, potential resistance, support, resistance, etc. You can kind of see the little channels that it works itself into. The reason why this is relevant is because it helps you understand what they're planning to do and how they approach the trades. So this being a support level right here, there's a good chance that it could get tested and come back up. So if you want to wait for confirmation here, perhaps after it tests this line a few times, it might be advantageous to consider an entry point there, right? That's kind of the general idea. But for me, I always prefer to be less greedy than the other person. So in this situation, to wait further for confirmation, don't take entry here. Wait for it to come back up and to see what happens, and to ensure that we get that confirmation you're looking for, and then take entry. Okay. I personally don't love using this a lot just because I think it can kind of get a little convoluted. You should create your own support and resistance levels and use those. I think they're a little bit more specific and relevant because this is more of a general concept. There's some people that just love it, but I'm just kind of generally getting you a perspective on what could happen here and what they're looking at. So those are my thoughts here. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. It does look like the price is kind of coming down. We're losing that support. So if it doesn't come up again soon, perhaps it will, because it is making higher highs here still. What we could do is move that guy there. Put it right in the middle. Honestly, no matter how you look at it, it's working itself into a channel. So if it loses this potential support level right here, then you want to be very careful with your entry point. So if 0.235 is lost, then you'd want to wait for the volume weighted average price to be tested. Okay. So for me, volume weighted average price is probably the best indication of a support line. So in this case here, it's a little ways away, but it will catch up. You might have to be patient. I know it's juicy because the price is really high, but don't buy into the hype. Don't just jump in because you have to, because it's there. It's likely it could come down, test this support level, and if not, it'll move on to test the volume weighted average price. Just so you know, the VWAP is essentially an average price based on the volume of the last 24 hours. So it works as a support and resistance line. It's my favorite indicator, my favorite tool to use, but that's why the price will most likely come back down, because of the fact that there's such a variance between the VWAP and the current price right now. And just to clarify, let's see here, this is what that variance is. So here to here, 9.5%. So that's almost 10% difference between the price and the current volume. And if we combine that with the RSI, even though it's coming back down to 60 right now, it was still up at 75. So there's no doubt, there's no reason, there's no doubt to me rather, that the price is coming down and retracing itself because of the price action and the fact that it's overbought for so long. Okay. So again, just something to consider. All these things are helpful in understanding kind of big picture and what's going on. Will it continue to work itself into this wedge? I don't know, it might, but it does look like it's coming down to test this support level. So it'd be really interesting to see what happens. So we might want to just forget about the wedge pattern altogether, because that doesn't look like that's going to happen unless it bounces off this and rejects and continues upward. So I guess at the end of the day here, just be very cautious with your entry. If you're going to take entry, wait for confirmation. And once you have confirmation, take an entry that is somewhere in the range of 25 to 30% in case something like this happens, right? Say you take an entry and that, in that first upswing, you'd be down a decent percent right now at 4 or 5%. And there's nothing better than being able to close out your position being down. Yes, you're taking a loss, but only taking a small loss instead of a large loss. Okay? So again, it's just something I'm trying to throw out there. And as you can see here, that support line might be holding, and it may come right back up. So I'll be interested to see what happens. So just pay attention to the support and resistance levels. Again, the support level at 0.235 is a big one, and the resistance line at 0.246 is another. So just be very careful with what happens here soon. Okay, and that's all I have for you for now. So thanks so much for joining me here and watching, following along, and listening to me ramble. I do that a lot, I apologize, but my hope is to help educate you and make you a better trader, right? Because I have years of terrible experience and years of good experience. I want to bring that good experience to the table and help you guys out. So thanks again for joining me. We'll see you in the next video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.